I just saw that.
We're already giggling and we have not even started this podcast. She's back, ladies and gentlemen. She's back. Jenny McKinney, I feel like it's been a couple of years anyway since you've been on the podcast, which is ridiculous because I talk to you nearly every day. You feel like I don't talk to you every day. I feel like I talk to you every day. Friends, I am like the worst texter backer. I have to do
Hmm.
this triage thing when I get emails or texts, like, there's like always 700. So I quickly have to go through. And Jenny and I have a love language, a shared love language that many of you probably have, which is called memes. And so we share memes, but they get interspersed with like serious, deep conversations and work conversations and all kinds of things. And then it'll be 3 days before I hear back, or before she hears back from me. And then I start slamming her with 700. So it's like, in my heart, I talk to you every day, all day, every day, because you are one of my absolute favorite people on the planet. The reason Jenny McKinney is here, ladies and gentlemen, is because we were recently just talking about our own transformation stories. And I think sometimes when you are in the depth of money stress,
Hmm.
you don't realize that a total transformation has to occur. It's not just about the money. It never is. Those of you that listen to the podcast are probably cluing into that, but it's never about the money. The money struggles that you're experiencing are a symptom of something much deeper. And what's
Hmm.
cool is when I met Jenny, I feel like in the year 1674, it was so long ago. I think we were on horseback back then. That's how long ago it was. But, she did and said some things without realizing, because, we joke that we don't joke. It's actually quite serious, but you are a healer, but you're a healer by accident.
Yes.
And, always like this deep intuitive thing inside of you, you've really been able to shift people's energy like this. Now, of course, now you're an EFT tapping practitioner and you're award winning in business and you're award winning in all these. You started off as a makeup artist by trade. And so I think you've won what, 10 times in a row, the 11,
Almost nine.
12, 9.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been a lot. In my head, it's like 10 times. So you'll hear me we're just going to assume the close and say 10 times. But you are the master of transformation, not only on the outside when it comes to that makeup thing, you know, on the inside too. And I call it the makeup thing and only just to make Carrie and everybody else laugh because, I mean, look at me. Look at me. This is what I did for you today. This is
I saw that Glow Skin Beauty lip crayon come out. I was like, yeah, girl,
this
get
is
it.
my best effort. I've never been one to care about the outside stuff, though I do recognize lots of people do. And I do think it's important to respect yourself and look presentable, but you really understand the connection between looking good and feeling good. And it's a different vibe for you, like it is for a lot of people. So, anyway, all of that is just to say one of the things that you have always been really good at is helping people tap into, and I just don't mean like, physically and literally the tapping that you do. You've always been really great at helping people tap into the thing inside them that's at the core of who they are that will allow them to really become who they've been meant to be. Because I think what happens for a lot of people, especially financially speaking, they we nobody hits the age of 8 or 9 and thinks to themselves, when I grow up, I want to be broke. When I grow up, I want to be in so much credit card debt, I can't breathe. Nobody thinks
Bring
that.
it.
Yeah. Nobody thinks that.
Oh my gosh.
But it
Although I wonder, I might have.
But it happens because of pain. It happens because of trauma. It happens because of the way you feel about yourself. It happens because you're trying to keep up with an image that you don't feel you have at the moment. Like, there's all kinds of reasons. And it just happens systemically and it happens, accidentally, and it happens, for all kinds of reasons. But if we were to eliminate all of that and get to the root of who you are, there's no way you'd be broke. And so that's what you're so good at, is helping people get to really the root of who they are before the world started putting labels and sort of destroying, our sense of self. So that was the most ridiculous long. I should have just read your bio. That would have been that's what Carrie would have done. And it would have been fast and efficient. But Carrie's still off, my friends. She's off for the month of October. I know you miss her, so send her an email, info@erinscottkelly.com. But you get my other bestie, Jenny McKinney, to talk today about transformation. So tell me, for you, if you were to think about somebody struggling with finances and they were to like, I don't know where to begin or I don't know where to start. Now, I know you're not a financial expert, but like what deep down, if you were to be like, okay, here's some things that you could do in order to start making this change, what advice would you give?
Regulate your nervous system. Yeah. Get
That's
in your
really it,
body.
actually. Okay, goodbye. Thanks for listening. That's really it.
Yes. Yeah.
Ultimately. Yeah.
Because when I think about the times, it's the more disconnected we get from our finances, from our body, where we get into debt and overweight. And so it's like pulling the connection back and having the courage to look at the truth of what is.
Yes.
Thing that I got messed up in my mind back when is I thought if I look at the truth of what is, because it's not what I want, then I'm stuck with that. So if
Yes.
I just go la 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 la, and it's like fingers in the ears and close my eyes,
Yeah.
then it makes it not true. But the problem is it just perpetuates more of what you don't want. So did I answer your question? What was your question?
Yes. Yes, you did. And I think the other thing that we do is we will sometimes, because we're afraid to admit what we really want, because in case it doesn't happen, we don't want to disappoint ourselves. We also
Sure.
choose that was what I was doing for sure, to be
For
stuck.
sure.
I don't think
Yeah.
people realize like when they're stuck, you're not actually stuck. Like, you know,
Yes. Stuck is a story. Yes.
stuck is a story. Yeah. Okay. So regulating the nervous system, which obviously happens with EFT tapping and, all these amazing things. And listener, if you're brand new here, what you need to know is a couple of years ago, Jenny and I were talking about tapping and regulating the nervous system and what could potentially happen for people who maybe wanted to incorporate a little bit of this practice into their, money life.
Hmm.
At the time, we took everybody who was in the Get the Hell Out of Debt group who wanted to participate, and we divided them into two groups. The first one was the control group. So those people were just doing the Get the Hell Out of Debt program as it's designed. And then the second group, we did 8 weeks of EFT tapping and nervous system regulation. And at the end of the stuff, I was even like, no, this can't be. Like, I was like, add it up again, add it up. I could not believe it. The control group for Get the Hell Out of Debt within 8 weeks paid off an average of $4,753.71. So about $4,700 on average. Still amazing, right? Higher than
Amazing.
any other debt program out there. Not involving consolidation, not involving, any balance transfers. It's just honest to goodness financial literacy. That's what we do around here. Combined with the tapping group in 8 weeks on average paid off $32,202.39. This is insane,
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
which is
It's
like more than a
mind
lot of
blowing.
people make in a year, but it was so cool to see how, like, by even just regulating their nervous system, not feeling stressed about money, not feeling shame about money, not feeling, they were able to really become more resourceful, create income, like create focus, not get distracted by their feelings and then buy something on Amazon to get you know, a little dopamine hit or whatever. It was really incredible to walk with those people through that program. So I say all this because I think some people sometimes, this was me, okay? Before I knew you, I was really like, I'm not into any of that woo-woo stuff. I am practical. I don't believe in any of that. I
Where's
mean, I
my
have Jesus
spreadsheet?
in my heart. Yeah. Jesus in my heart and spreadsheets on my computer. That's all I need, right? But there's a lot to it. And I just think it's really important to, and now look at me. I got Halloween decorations behind me. Look at me. I'm in the full fall mode. But I think this piece about regulating the nervous system is really ultimately at the end what it is. Now, if somebody can't get to a EFT tapping practitioner, what are some ways they can regulate their nervous system now?
Breathing. The
Mm.
more like it's when we're in fight or flight, that impacts our breath. And so taking control of our breath and allowing breath to expand, that's a really great way to signal to the nervous system that we're safe.
Yes.
Walking, bilateral stimulation is it's that's what EMDR is,
Mhm.
and which is a trauma therapy that I have used a lot, and it is life changing. So life changing. Those are some ways, and then getting off of foods or drinks that spike your cortisol, your stress hormone. I was off coffee for 3.5 years and just like full blown celery juice girl. Somehow coffee, I slipped down this dark hole back to it. I'm like, honey, I love it. I'm gonna go back off it again. Just yeah.
I
So
think that's the
you're
piece you have to recognize though, right? Is growth is never linear. And so what happens for a lot of us is as we expand and grow and have a transformation, there's always a time where you contract and you kind
Mhm.
of go back. But now you have something different, which is the awareness around, okay, my patterns have shifted a little bit. I'm back to this because I need some sort of comfort because I'm going to expand again. So
Yes.
just being fully graceful about that and recognize like how you just were like, I don't know, I fell off it. I'm gonna go back off coffee again and really just not giving it any power. Like, oh, I'm such a failure. I screwed up. I'm back on coffee. Like being really kind to yourself and recognizing that, hey, this is just a season and I know how to get out of it. And look how far I've come. So now let's just be here now, accept what is, and now create a plan and move forward or whatever I think is so critical. But explain
Totally.
what EFT tapping actually is, because I know we're sort of dancing around it, but tell everybody what it is for those that are unfamiliar.
Okay, so it stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques, and you basically touch these, they call them acupressure points on your body, and it sends a calming signal to the brain. So when we have chronic stress, it can be triggered by an email or a conversation, or maybe you witness something, anything unprocessed in the body. It helps your brain process it. And
Mhm.
so you actually change neural pathways. You actually expand your ability to process things and think clearly and access tools that you have, but you might not feel like you own. Because sometimes I'm like, I should know this. I know this. I knew this, but I can't quite get there.
Yes.
It just won't link together. So
Yeah.
tapping is a really efficient, easy way to change how your brain functions so that you feel in control instead of feel like you're run by, you
Mhm.
know, whatever is prioritizing your focus at the moment. And I
Yeah.
know so many people that feel run by circumstance, not
Yes.
in control of, you know,
Yeah.
not having to put fires out.
And that's such a dangerous place to be in the sense of, because sometimes when you don't feel in control, you'll try and take control,
It's
but you'll be trying to create control around things that you can't control, which then creates your own suffering even further, right? So,
time, that need for certainty. I lived that. That was like, I kept thinking, okay, I fixed it now, moving on. Oh, wait, nope, still need certainty. So now I get certainty met in different ways. So basically, there was a Korean study that injected dye. I don't know what kind of dye it was. I wouldn't want to be part of that study, but they injected dye into the vascular system and they mapped that, in fact, the places that you tap on when you do tapping do link to certain parts of the brain. So we have this survival part of our brain, the amygdala, that is in control of keeping us alive. And
mhm.
it's genius. It's so we need that. Like, let's stay alive longer, please. The thing is we fall into being run by that. And so that affects our health, it affects our decisions, it affects our capacity, it affects how we relate in the world, how the world perceives us, which in the end, I think really can limit and stunt what we create, what we
Mhm.
generate, how we show up. And so if we had some doable nervous system regulation practices, which there are plenty, then there is no ceiling on what we can
Mhm.
achieve and receive. It's incredible. I'm living proof. I just bought
Yes.
some shampoo the other day called Living Proof. I'm like, I like this brand. I feel
It's
like
good. It's
I'm
actually
living
good. The dry
proof.
shampoo is amazing. Yeah. Not an ad, not an ad. But
Not
it's
an ad.
this is what's cool because I've, of course, known you for so long and I've seen you transform your life over and over and over again, which, if you are wondering, like, what do they keep talking about transform your life? Remember how Madonna used to reinvent herself, right? Remember she had the
So
comb
much.
bra and then she was, the cowboy and then all the things, right? And just on
And the
top of,
roller skate disco
oh,
era.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's not quite what we're talking about. We're talking about that, except for on the inside. So really deciding who you are and living that out in a way that allows your results in your life to reflect that inner change. And so
Mhm.
sometimes that means leaving toxic relationships. Sometimes that means healing broken relationships. Sometimes it means healing your relationship with food or alcohol or your workplace or your finances, all kinds of things that you can do. But the transformation really isn't about you becoming someone else. It's really about becoming, again, like we talked about before, who you really are. And what's been
Yeah.
really cool of, when you have friends like you that you connect with and you've watched through all the years is you've always had a really strong growth game. But when you became an EFT tapping practitioner, it was like rocket fuel for your life
Yeah,
because it
it was.
wasn't just you're tapping along with your clients a lot of the time. So it's like you're still getting the residual benefits of, nervous system regulation, which of course makes you this radiant, amazing, human being that puts so much good in the world. And of course, that comes back to you in really abundant ways.
It's so true. I think even just the recording of our 8-week program,
Mhm.
I think week 2, I found out that my husband had cancer for the 4th time, and you were like, "Jenny, we don't have to we can pause this, like, you can deal with what you've got going on," and I felt so deeply committed to the group that had said yes to it.
Yeah.
There's always been this desire in me to not let someone down, and what I
Mhm.
didn't realize is my commitment to the group was actually a gift to myself because through that really challenging time, like, thank God he's recovered and everything went well, but that was hard stuff. So
Yeah.
to be present and facilitate this experience, I totally benefited myself, and
Yeah.
that is something that, one of my mentors says the secret to living is giving. I was giving and it served me. So,
Yes.
yeah,
And I just want to point this out because you said something really beautiful there. You said, I didn't want to let people down, which is a different thing than people pleasing. Because I do want to say that people pleasing can often be very, very toxic and negatively impact your finances, certainly all areas of your life. But you said, I didn't want to let people down, which is an integrity statement, which is a wealth building statement. And there's such a
yes,
difference there because you weren't continuing to step up because you didn't want people to think poorly of you or you weren't worried about your ego. You didn't want their progress to stop because you were in service to them. And so
exactly.
even those tiny little switches in the vocabulary that you used, the way you choose to show up, like all of those things are really like ultimately wealth building practices that support a journey when you're trying to get out of debt and transform your life.
Totally. I know integrity is like such an integral part of your language
Yeah.
and your teaching and just how you live your life. And I have for some time now used words to be like an umbrella over my year, kind of flavors my year.
Yeah.
And it's popular. I think a lot of people do that now. And the year I did have integrity, it might have even been that year. No, I
Mm,
think it was that year, Erin.
that's
I
cool.
think it was that year, but I didn't look at integrity. I wasn't looking at it as integrity of you do what you say, which
Mhm.
integrity is. I looked at it as integrity like a wheel. When it's whole, it's intact and it rolls. So I looked at integrity as wholeness. So everything I did, there was this level of wholeness that, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yes, I think that's so cool. And I think that really ultimately ends up being what integrity is, right? It is that because the thing with integrity is when it erodes by tiny degrees. And
Yeah.
so nobody ever starts off, again, just like with the debt thing, nobody ever thinks to themselves, I want to be completely out of alignment in a year and a half. But it
Yeah.
starts with saying we're going to do the one thing and then changing our mind, or it starts with like maybe not treating ourselves with respect or treating someone else with respect. And it builds and builds and builds until you really just feel it's just honestly like the grossest feeling, isn't it, when you're out of integrity? But when
And
you
then you
are
wake up and you can't sleep and you feel like, oh,
yeah. And when you are in integrity, you do feel a sense of wholeness. So
mhm.
that is what's so cool. So
Yeah.
cool. Um, okay, so ways you create transformation in your finances. We've talked about some of the ways from a very nervous system, emotional support mindset sort of way. Of course, I'm going to tell you that the way you create transformation in your finances is through the two tools called your budget and your net worth, or your cash flow plan and your net worth. But what you really ultimately have to do, and why we see so much transformational change in the work you and I do together, is that we really do marry the practical, tactical solutions with the mindset support. And what's
Yes.
cool is there is a huge connection between what goes on underneath that with your finances and what goes on underneath that with your health and your relationships. And what we see with people who really embody this type of transformation work. Yes, exactly. Those of you who are listening in your vehicles right now, you can't see Jenny's finger motions, but I assure you they weren't inappropriate. She was linking them
I mean,
together. They're making the link sign. Yeah. Um, but it's cool because when you can get to all of the things underneath and you can heal those places underneath that you weren't responsible for them not being healed. I think that's the most important piece you need to know. Something happened to you,
yes.
whether it be intentional, whether it be a form of abuse, whether it be just somebody said something and you were just at an age or at a stage of life where you didn't know how to process it in an empowering way. And somehow it created a meaning in you, which then created this result. So when we talk about transformation, that's all we're doing. We're going to go back to that place. If you don't know where it is, we'll help you find it.
Hmm.
Go back to that place and we do the healing work and we give it a new story. We write the new ending, is what we do. And ultimately, then all areas of your life level up. Because what we've seen happen time and time again is if you just, I don't know, remember in the 80s and 90s when all the talk show hosts would lose weight on these crazy crash diets. And then, we grew up in the yo-yo generation of all the celebrities going up and down, trying to make it work. But they didn't figure out until much later. All the young people know this now, but we slightly young people,
We previously young people.
previously young people, didn't see the connection. We didn't get the connection that there was something bigger or deeper going on. And now what's cool is young people, you young ones in your 20s, when you notice something's off, you're healing it right away. We didn't have access to any of those tools or resources, those of us.
Please.
So if you've been around a while, like if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and you're like, yeah, I feel like I've been doing the same thing, the same pattern. It might show up in a different way. For me, it was I dated the same guy for like 10 years in my 20s. He just had different names. You know what I mean?
Wore different pants. Yeah.
That was a pattern I had to break because I was like, why do I keep ending up with guys who do this? Right. It was like, oh, that's a me problem, right? Not a them problem. But what's happening is we're getting to the root of what's underneath. And then what's cool about it is when you heal it, everything changes. So it's not about discipline. It's
Right.
not about, you have to live on, what does that guy say? Rice and beans, beans and rice. It's not like that. You can really activate and change everything with
Yeah.
kindness, love, and proper support for yourself.
Totally. It's
Got to
like,
do a bit of work too, but yeah.
yeah, it's less willpower and more, in some ways, accessing the essence of your true identity, but it's also a little bit crafting an identity that
Yes.
supports the outcome that you really want.
Yes. Yeah. Speak to that. Okay. So that's identity language, which you and I talk about. Okay. So just side note for listeners, you're probably like, these two are insane. It's really tough when you talk to your best friends
Cuckoo
because you're like,
bananas.
you have your own like conversation. But like, this is almost like a little peek into our peer group and how we talk to each other and how we make sure, like, I don't think you and I've ever had a conversation. Well, no, we never have. I've never left a conversation with you feeling terrible.
Yes.
We either make each other laugh or we reframe things, help each other see when we're going through challenges. We give each other a new lens, not from a coaching perspective or anything like that. That's not how we operate. But what's really cool is like you are listening right now to like a little bit of an interview, but also you're catching some of our peer language here. And I'm trying to really be mindful that you guys might be like, what are they talking about? But explain this like crafting an identity process and how that's worked for you
Sure.
or share some tools that work for others.
So it was really interesting because in my early 20s, I worked for a company for 10 years and I was a facilitator of their weight loss stuff. And it
Mm,
was incredible because I got the job by using the program and getting results. So
nice.
I lost 40 pounds and it was great. I loved the community. I just see so much power in
Yes.
community. It was
Huge
a
power
place to just feel connected and generate momentum together. And it was beautiful on so many levels. And what I recognized is I didn't change my identity. So, what I mean by that is I used the program and manipulated it as much as I could to kind of keep what I got by using it. But I didn't shift like internal rules in myself and how I related to food necessarily. So, as
Mhm.
soon as I stopped having that influence, it was almost like, whew, I'm free. So, free what? Free to go back to old patterns and habits. And so when life popped up extra stress, as I just said, Mike had cancer for the fourth time. Well, there was three times before that. So there was a lot of times where there was financial stress, relational stress, physical stress, where, spiritual stress, where food became medicine, but not the good kind. It was really something to help numb out, distract, occupy, um, fill, give me certainty in times that I was extremely uncertain. And so as I became aware that, wait, there's nothing wrong with me as a person. I'm not a bad person because I found the weight I lost. It's
Mhm.
just, I made a decision. Do I want to be, it's ignorant to say, but do I want to be fat in my 50s? And maybe 50 pounds, I released 50 pounds. Does that make me fat? I don't know. I like, who cares? I don't want to get hung up on the label, but I made that declaration in my mind. And so I wanted to approach it in a different way than how I had done it in the past, because if in the past worked, I wouldn't have 50 pounds to release to begin with.
Right.
So
Right.
even just saying I've released it means I'm never going to find it.
Mhm.
It's not, I don't even worry or stress about it anymore,
Mhm.
because I know now my, who I am as a woman supports where I'm at in my body, how I nurture it, how I show up, everything. So I guess identity for me is I'm the type of woman that makes choices that fuel my body. Do I still have a relationship with Mrs. Vicky's? Yes, I love Mrs. Vicky's, but she is not, she has limited access to my life.
Right. Right. She doesn't have power over you. She's
She
not the
doesn't.
solution to the problems anymore. Yeah. And so
No.
when
And
now
it,
when you indulge, it's like a, you know, it's an indulgence, you know, it's a treat.
yeah. And it's not, when I look back to the identity I held as
Yeah.
someone who carried extra weight for my frame, I realized how much scarcity was involved in that. I would overeat, or I would, choose certain things because I just wanted to have my fill, because what if I didn't have any more, or let me eat
Yes.
now to avoid future hunger. And that,
Yes.
like, the root of that to me really felt like scarcity. And now
Yes.
that I see there's infinite abundance, whoa, that is a
Yes.
game changer.
Same with money. Like that's why the people who have the lack block, like from the book Naked Money Meetings, it's sometimes you'll see in a lack block, people are hoarding.
Yes.
It has a detrimental effect on your fine. You'd think on a surface level, oh, if I buy all this toothpaste, or remember in the pandemic, buy all the toilet paper and
Right.
right, then I'll have enough. But
Yeah.
ultimately that doesn't build wealth because like you say, you're now not relying on any resourcefulness. You've used up all the resources and now
Mm,
you're actually limited. And so sometimes we'll see people who really struggle financially and they can't figure out why, but they need to have a full fridge and a full freezer, but their cash flow is a mess. And so
right.
it's the same kind of deep rooted connection there. That feeling of scarcity actually creates the opposite effect that you want it to create when you're struggling with scarcity. So,
Totally.
yeah.
And I used to really think like the identity that I embodied before was always, always the answers were out there. I
Mhm.
never really trusted my inner knowing or my intuition, or like I felt like I always had to have someone to bounce something off of, rather than just going, you know what, Jenny, you feel this way for a reason. There's a reason you feel this way, maybe in someone's company or entering into certain things. I don't know if that makes sense, but I just
Yes.
come to a place where I trust myself so much more, and it feels so good.
That trust was built though. I think people need to hear that. Like, it's not like if you're somebody who thinks like, I don't even know if I could trust myself right now. And again, that happens with money. It happens in relationships, all kinds of things.
Everything, yeah.
um that you built that day by day. So it's not like you just one day decided like, oh, this is my new identity. I'm now identifying as a fit person or whatever. Like you put in the
Yes.
work. But what I
Right.
witnessed, and I don't know if this was a part of it, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I also witnessed you being okay with sucking at it at first. Like I
Yes.
remember the first one of your big things to transform your health was you started going on a hike. And
Yes.
the first few times it wasn't very pretty.
Yeah, no, I could remember rubbing my shins in the middle of the night. I would get these like shin pains, and I'd just be like, oh, 3 in the morning, smacking my shin. I
Yeah.
I never get that anymore, thank God. But I remember feeling like this can't be like this forever. Like, surely this can't be like this
Right.
forever. So
And
yeah,
it's
it
not.
takes that.
It's not been like your legs are made of steel. You could bounce a quarter off your butt right now if
I'm
you
a
know what I
billy
mean?
goat.
Yeah. But you
Yeah.
had to be
Well, I don't
okay
know
with
about the butt part. I'm working on that for 2025. That's one of, get a peachy booty, drop a squat.
but you were okay with not like sometimes people because of their need for perfectionism, they're like, well, I don't look like a good hiker. Right? I'm not a fit person today.
Right.
Therefore, I can't be a fit person. And you're like, well, that's so cool that you were like, this can't be forever. This initial struggle is not going to be, I'm just going to get better at it and better at it. Same with money, right? Like initially you sit down and you look at all those credit cards and you're like, oh my God, I suck at this. But slowly and surely, I'm going to make it hurt less because I'm going to keep at it in spite of how it feels.
I don't know if it was a Rick Roll podcast or Rich, how do you say his name? It was a
Oh,
podcast
but
I
when you said
heard.
Rickroll, I was hearing never gonna give you up. Isn't that a Rickroll? Never gonna
Rich,
let
no,
you down.
Rick Roll. Yeah, that's Rick Roll.
Okay.
You've been Rick rolled.
Okay. So Rich Roll podcast.
It's real. It was either him or I think Huberman, but they were talking about everything is pain management.
Oh,
So either you're not dealing with it pain, or you're dealing with the pain of dealing with it. But
right.
health, wealth, relationship, everything. Like, do I have the courage to have the crucial conversation? Or am I just going to suck it up and suffer?
Right.
Do I have the courage to dig in and do the money practices? Or am I just going to have the consequence of all the freaking pain and sleepless nights from it?
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, me too. I I just think one of the coolest things about growth, and this is why, you and I, when we're working with people, we make them track a lot of these things because
Yes.
I didn't in the very beginning. And people have said to me, like, what was it like, 20, 30 years ago when I'm like, well, I remember it's hard, but I don't remember those visceral details. And I wish I had kept better track. Like, I
Yeah.
do have some financial records that I've been able to find where I made a $69 payment here or a $33 payment here, which, when you're millions of dollars in debt, doesn't even make an eyelash of a difference. But
Right.
but I wish I'd kept better
But
records.
it does.
What's cool is when you can even just see progress after a couple of months of wow, like I can't believe I would have made that decision 2 months ago. And now I'm gonna and people like us, we point out growth in each other because we can see it. You can often see it outside yourself. The
Mhm.
solution is inside yourself, but you really do need a strong peer group of people who are, oh, side note, I have a bunch of, you've got like your friends, you got your close friends, and then you got your kind of extended friends, and then you got the friends outside. We always joke that if it was a boob, like your close friends are the nipple, your extended friends are the areola, and then everybody else is the boob, right? Like your
Right.
Facebook friends, boob. There's this group of Facebook friends, the boob, who have started and stopped an accountability group for each other for about 12 years for fitness, right? But you know what accountability groups are like when you're like, that's why I love being in our peer group because we are all people who are like out there killing it. Like I'm the dumbest one in our peer group. And I love that because it
Yeah.
inspires me to work harder and be better. But I'm watching these people, I don't know why I'm in this group chat. I never contribute. I just watch it happen. But it's like, they're constantly like, we should do this, we should do this. And it was Canadian Thanksgiving a couple weeks ago. They were all going to go for a hike and then decided the pub was right there. And so they all just instead went and got blasted. And I was like, okay, this is the wrong, if you want results, this is the wrong peer group. So,
Yes.
but
Oh
it's so
my
important. What I
God.
love about us is we can point out each other's growth. Like you'll sometimes remind me, hey, you've done this really cool thing. Let's stop and celebrate it. That's one thing you're really, really good at is celebrating in you and in other people.
And I know I could, like, when I see people celebrating you, I'm like, people, she's cringing right now. She wants you to move on, but just, you know, give it to her.
I laugh so hard because we're watching Parks and Rec. I'm so behind the times. I didn't have a TV for the longest time. So one of my teenagers really likes that show. So it's our thing. We sit down and we watch an episode of Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
And there's this character on it, for those of you that don't know, everybody knows except me. So I'm probably mansplaining this to people, but there's this character named Ron Swanson, and he's like a man's man. He eats a lot of meat. He doesn't like government, even though he works for it. He's pretty amazing. But one of the things he hates is he hates people celebrating his birthday, which is me. And so we were just talking, and I have just recently had a birthday, and so I refuse to celebrate it. And I, in fact, even like lie most of the time when people ask me when my birthday is. I say it's in January. It's not, but I'll just tell them that to throw them off the scent, because I just hate being. It's a childhood wound, I recognize. But so for my birthday, we had a cake that said "Happy Birthday, Ron Swanson." So I don't celebrate my birthday anymore. I celebrate Ron Swanson's birthday. That's how bad it is. But on the other hand, I'm so grateful to be around because I love celebrating other people. And what's so cool is like, I would rather we celebrate, a breakthrough in something. I would rather we celebrate, rather than my participation ribbon for being born. That doesn't feel like something. But I just love that we're the type of people to celebrate. And for us, it's like if your big goal was like to clean up your bathroom, You know, maybe you have a messy bathroom counter and you're like, oh, I gotta. And then one day you remember to put the toothpaste cap back on the toothpaste, or you wash your makeup brushes. We're like, we need to order cake. We need to order cake. Look at you're brilliant. You're smart. Because what it does, what we know, right, is then it starts to stack those positive habits when most people in the world, they do something wrong or they make a mistake and then they beat themselves up and beat themselves up and beat
Oh,
themselves up.
totally. Yeah,
It's the opposite effect.
exactly. We're spiraling up or we're spiraling down. And when we have big celebrations for small wins, it's like, okay, let's more, please. That's
Yeah.
okay. I
Yeah.
can do that.
Yeah. I do. I really do. It's like the greatest thing. And I knew years ago when I was undergoing this transformation that I had to find people who would celebrate me because I just wasn't going to do it for me. And so, you know, I've used all of the tools that like I do. I'm certainly much better at it than I was. I keep a little journal of reasons why I'm awesome. And I told my husband, when I die, you have to burn this because if anybody finds it, I will be so from the grave, I will haunt you. Like I just will.
No, they'll look at it and go, you missed everything. You got this, but there's so much more. Come on.
But it's
Oh,
important. I think we have to know that, like what our weaknesses are in our growth. And I think it's so important to really be open to doing things in a different way than the way that makes you comfortable. That's
that is the
absolutely critical.
ticket to growth. That is the ticket to growth. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am so all about that.
Okay. So you've had some major life changes. You've helped other people go through major life changes. What is something, if somebody's listening today and they're like, okay, I found this pot, I've searched debt, which is usually how people find us. I've
Yes.
got a lot of it. I need to do something today to start my transformation. What would you tell them to do? I know we talked about nervous, but like, what's the
Oh
first
my
thing?
gosh. Okay. Well, this is going to be different based on what I've experienced this year.
Mhm.
I think I could have accelerated my transformation if I had done what I'm about to say to do.
Okay, okay, okay.
Um, have had massive transformation in every category of my life, and for that, I'm very grateful.
Mm.
And this year has been tremendously transformative because my kitty almost died. It was a horrendous experience, very traumatizing. My brain linked the trauma of that to my husband's survival. So I believe I had a PTSD attack
Mhm.
and it was a lot. It was a lot, a lot. And because of Jamie Kern Lima's book launch for Worthy,
Ah,
it was this incredible 12-hour day of steeping in her wisdom and all of these people coming and the conversation she had with them. And the whole day, I was just like, amazing, 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 amazing. And then Oprah popped up and talked about her ticket to her life, the expansion impact, all of the things that she holds as lovely and like juicy came from the power of prayer on her knees. She said, no matter how bad my knees got, I prayed on my knees. And you know, when you hear something, your brain indexes it and goes, like,
yeah,
that sounds important. That sounded important to me and it stuck.
yeah.
And then just quickly, Bruce almost died. He ate something, it got impacted, he had a full blockage, and it was all this big thing.
Mhm.
And I was at the crossroads of having to decide, do I euthanize him because they're saying maybe that's the best choice, or do I go ahead and do a surgery with him? It was a very, like, talk about needing certainty. It was ultimately uncertain.
Yeah.
And that I was lying in bed crying because I had to get up, get dressed, and go make this decision. And I was talking to one of my dear friends, Tracy, and she said, Jenny, have you forgotten that you're a master manifester? She's like, you love this cat. You go do the surgery, you figure it out. And I was like, wait a minute. First of all, having someone reflect you back to you when you've forgotten, priceless. So I got up, got dressed, got on my knees and prayed. And this is the recipe. I feel like whatever you believe in, universe, God, uh, any form of power beyond yourself,
New
when
Kids
you
on the Block.
that, when you
Yeah.
practice that, it expands it. And so people, places, and things became part of the equation that were not part of the equation before because I got on my knees and prayed. And I just asked for that divine guidance. This year has been the most transformative year of my life, I feel like, because that got incorporated. So that would be my first step. Whatever you
Well,
believe in, pray.
I feel terrible now because mine was flossing, which is like a whole other story I'll tell you. So here's just a deep and profound. I was like, make a promise to yourself every day. And I started flossing.
Listen, plaque is stinky. You don't want that.
It wasn't about the plaque, it was about the practice of like going back to basics for self-care. But anyway, for self-care, but whatever, it's okay. You're fine. Fine. I'll incorporate yours. That's good. But I wanted to say, I remember when you were thinking you were having that PTSD attack, I remember exactly where I was because I was picking out decor. I was in one meeting and I had to go meet my husband to go pick up decor for this house we're building.
Yeah.
And you called me right in the middle of it. And I was like, I am the worst friend because I cannot deal. I'm such a not going to be a good support to you today. And I just remember that feeling. And so we went into this decor appointment. I was at decor appointment, and they're like pulling out all the different tiles. And I don't care. Like I normally care, but I just didn't because I was like thinking about you and I was worried about it. And this woman says, "Are you okay? Like, are you distracted today?" I said, "My friend Jenny, she's got this cat, and it's like I had like 17 lives already, and I feel like I should go call her." And she says, "Why don't we pray for the cat right now?" And when people who are they're prayer people and they like you're just not going to say no, right? And so this woman, gosh, what was her name? I don't even know off the top of my head. Was like, it was this like really cute old lady prayer. Okay, so I'm about to offend everybody who prays, and you just need to know this about me. I was I did not grow up in the church. Okay. I found my place much later in life. I did
Me
not grow
too.
up in the church.
Me too.
So if you ask me to pray with you, I'm going to be like, yo, God, here's what here's the situation. So grateful for this. And like, they're
I
very
speak all
casual.
dialect.
Yeah. So casual. But she was like, folded her little hands and she was like, Dear Heavenly Father, we pray for Erin's friend, Jenny's cat. Like, it was like this, like, so, it was so. But anyway, and then I remember you telling me this story later, and I was like, there just is something even to speaking, like, because I think I used to always just pretend everything is fine. And I think there's power in saying to people, like, here's something that, and because people can take that off of you. And what was cool about that is, then I was able to be like, oh, yeah, I like that tile. I like that, whatever, and get out of here and live my crazy life. But it's so cool that I think sometimes, like, that was her, like, it's such a great solution. It's such an easy solution. It was almost like she was like, we don't have to carry this right now. Let's vocalize it
Oh
and give it
my
up. That's
God.
it. That's all we have to do is just give it to someone else who can deal with it. Because ultimately we're not in control. So anyway, this is sounding like a sermon, isn't it? I'd be the worst pastor. Could you imagine me? I'd be at the pulpit being like, the C word and say, you know what I mean? They'd have to beat me. They'd have to bleep me out of the front of the pulpit if I was a minister of some kind.
I think it was I heard someone talking this week about it might have been Ed Milet talking about Ed Milet that there's pastors that coach and coaches that pastor.
Mm,
And I thought that was a really cool way to look at it because and even talking about prayer and like thinking that you're not doing it right. I think just acknowledging that there is something beyond you and like, if you're real, can you help me? Can you show me you?
yeah,
People, places, and things that weren't part of the equation. They just kind of pop up.
yeah,
And I would be a suffering unit if I didn't have some of the people, places, and things that popped up unexpectedly. I would my life would look a lot different. So that would be where I would start.
yeah.
Where I started initially was really making a decision and
Hmm.
I use tracking. So my goal was I don't want to be fat and 50. And now I'm 50 wonderful. So what happened was I made a hiking goal and I had it for a certain time frame. And then I tracked that. So even though the goal was big, I was so motivated day by day to add to the tracking. I didn't think
Yes,
about the bigness of the goal or what I wanted to do to my body. It was
yes,
I had a practice in place that generated momentum.
yes,
And then me choosing to be part of communities, the power of peers, the power of community, and the power of people that see something bigger for your life than you saw for yourself has been priceless for me. So now I get to step into things and trust that this is legit. This is the life for me.
And I think what's so cool about that is people track the wrong things sometimes. And that's why it's so important that you tracked the kilometers or the miles for the hike,
Yeah.
because that's the part you can control. And I think sometimes people look at the number on the scale and they're like, I want this number to be this down here. And if you're a woman and you're listening and you've been on the earth longer than 10 years, you've probably been on a diet, which is the most horrifying fact about humanity.
Yeah.
And what we know to be true is if you focus on that number, you actually don't have control of it. I know people think like, oh, you control the scale. You don't. It's Shark Week and that number goes up, or you take a big poop and the number goes down. And like you can be eating right and doing all the things, but you'll self-sabotage if that's the number you're focusing on because you can't,
Yes.
that number is the result of the work you do. You're not
Yes.
controlling. And
Yes.
instead, when you can track, you choose something to track that actually you have control over. So the input,
That's
that's the magic number. And that's what we do with, when we talk about budget and net worth, the budget is never going to work out exactly how you wanted it to, but the part you can control is the, decisions that you make that line up with that. And that's ultimately what you care about. And that's ultimately the thing that ends up transforming. Yeah. Yeah. Because your weight loss, your huge 50-pound weight loss was a result of you adding the, because what was the goal? 1,000 kilometers?
yeah. The goal was 1,000 kilometers from my birthday to my birthday.
Mhm.
And then I didn't write it down. So I forgot about it. Like, how do you set a goal and forget about it? I know you don't write it down.
Yeah.
But I had told a couple of people. And so I had a wedding in a different city that my sister lives in. And I was there the night before the wedding. And she's like, hey, sis, how's your goal going? Because now it's 6 months in. And I was
Right.
like, oh my gosh, I forgot about it. What the heck? I was freaking out. And now it's September. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to hit that goal. Going through winter, I had all these events I was meant to be part of. I was having surgery. My husband was having surgery. It was not ideal at all. And she's like, settle down. So I don't know how to make a spreadsheet. She does. So she made me a spreadsheet and said, this is what you have to do. 5 days a week, this is what you have to do, and you'll hit your goal, no problem. And then knowing I needed to not there, knowing there would be some weeks I just couldn't do that, I started doubling up in advance. So putting something in the bank made me feel like there's hope for this goal. And then what
Yes.
happened is the beauty of that was momentum. Momentum is magic.
Yes.
So
Yes.
as I generated momentum, I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't die. I'm actually capable of far more than I thought I was. And as that started changing with my energy and my focus and my self-belief, all of a sudden I'd be like, Mrs. Vicky's, stand down. Like, no, not tonight. so, so yeah, it changed everything. So then in the end, that competition with myself felt so good that I did 1,800 kilometers instead of 1,000. And I did it prior to my birthday by about a month and a half.
What is that in miles? Do you know what that is? Have you ever calculated?
1,500K.
Yeah.
That's a great question. It's less.
It
So
is. That's huge. That's 1,100 miles. That's huge. That's
I
really huge.
honestly, one of my internet friends calls me the queen of the north because I would be posting all these hiking videos by myself. I now know it's important to go equipped. We had some cuckoo bananas guy running around with like a black cloak, black thing over his face, carrying a rope, walking slowly out of the woods, dauntingly towards you. I never saw him, but he did that to multiple people on my trail recently, and apparently he's been arrested. And I think, wow, the fact that he's been detained, I don't know if he's still detained, but I think a lot has to happen to be detained. So I'm like, I go prepared now. I have a
He's
hairspray
probably
bottle.
afraid of you.
He's like, here comes the queen of the north. Anyway, so now I go out equipped. And I use different routes and I don't go live when I'm out there. I have a family member who's knows a lot more than me about safety. So she gave me the briefing on what to do.
So you're
And
gonna do his hair when you're up there, or what's your you carry
no,
hairspray?
I carry a hairspray bottle size of bear spray in case I
Oh,
encounter a bear.
I thought once I rip that balaclava off him, I've got to give him a, a little zhuzhing. I thought
So
that's
I'll be
part of
like,
it.
are you a bear? Could you
Oh
carry
man.
it on people? I signed a thing. But I have bear spray if I need, bear protection.
I love that. I love that. What a huge, again, like a seemingly insurmountable goal that you just did literally step by step, which is so cool. It's
And the
just,
thing is anything that we do that expands our capacity of how we see ourselves influences the things
yes.
we can achieve. So it's gone to every pillar of my life that matters, which is really cool. And then here's the thing that gives me life, helping other people see that, helping
Mhm.
other people experience that, helping other people dream bigger, helping other people break free and break through. And I can't even say that properly. I'm all excited.
That's why you're the incredible coach and healer and leader that you are. Well, that's why I'm so excited to do total life transformation with you.
Yes.
So, if you're new here and you just found us and you're in debt, this is not for you. Okay. Your job is to take the Get the Hell Out of Debt program, focus on that, and every tool you need is in there. If you're somebody who's been around a while, your cash flow is improving and you just want to rapidly accelerate your progress, you might be interested in what Jenny and I are doing behind the scenes. So I used to have this program years and years ago called Total Life Transformation. And I did a lot of this work. I did it solo. I can't believe I did it without you. That seems so weird now. Like, why would I have ever done that without you in there with me, teaching with me? And I stopped doing it in the pandemic because, of course, when the whole world changes and went into survival mode, it just didn't feel right to be like, do you want to thrive and be your best self? Like people were like, I don't know if I'm going to be working, like marriages are falling apart, like all these. I probably should have kept it up. It just didn't feel right at the time. So we haven't done it since the pandemic. But a lot of the women who did it pre-pandemic are millionaires now, multimillionaires now. They've stayed together. They're friends. Some of them are in our peer group, which is so cool. Like to have friends that are you've really watched like come up and do these really incredible things. And some of them are still working for fun because they're young and they just feel like they have a lot to contribute now. So that part's really cool. Um, and what's interesting about this is, we're bringing it back. It's a not an inexpensive program. The whole program is worth about 10K when you add up all the bonuses and the values and all of that. But we're really going to be spending it's almost like 8 months. The sort of calls and the things that we're going to do start sort of January to May. But right,
Yes.
in November, you're doing a coaching call with me one-on-one. You're doing a one-on-one with Jenny. You're tapping, you're getting a custom tapping script. There's like all of these extra, we're doing your one word ritual that you do every year to help you like inform the year. We're doing a transformation weekend together. You're doing a seminar for us. You're helping us pick out makeup and make us look cuter on the outside. I'm going to be you have to keep me muted the whole time because you're going to hear me mutter. Like I remember one time you shipped me a box of makeup. Carrie and we were on Zoom together when I opened it. And I'm putting something on my eyebrows. She goes, I feel like that's a mascara. I don't feel like that's for your eyebrows. And I looked and I look like an angry bird. I was like, oh, I think you're right. I don't think that's for eyebrows. She was just like, you're ridiculous. But
So he's like, ship that box to me, Erin.
she really was. But you're going to help us really do some of the outside stuff that matches the inside stuff. We're going to do all this identity work and we're going to do all these things together. Most importantly, we're going to be a really tight-knit peer group for 6 months, really traveling on a journey together to really accelerate what you've been working on. Or if you're brand new and this is all interesting to you, but you've never done any type of deep work like this before, we're going to do it together. So there's over 60 calls in this package. We meet Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday mornings. If you're in North America, it's later in the afternoon if you're in the UK. And it's probably 3 days later if you're in Australia. I don't, can't do that conversion really quickly in my head. I just know you people are in the future.
Yeah.
Um, but what's so cool is you're getting access not only to us, but a group of people who aren't just an accountability group. They're a community of women that you're probably going to be friends with long into the future. And so we weren't going to do a public launch of this because we sent it out. We sold a ton of spots already. But I just sort of felt like a lot of the people who are coming know each other. And I thought, that's not fun. We need some new potential people in here.
Yes.
So we thought, we'll just tell a few more of you. And then when it fills up, everything will disappear off the internet as if it never existed because we're going what we call underground. We're getting really into the deep-rooted work. You're not going to see us posting selfies on social media, flexing in the mirror at the gym. It's not like that. But you will 6 months from now notice a big difference in all of us. And you're going to be like, wait a second, what's different about her? What did she do? Something's sparky, something's magical about her. And so if that feels like an invitation that you want to be a part of, we call it Total Life Transformation 2025. You're kind of stuck with Jenny and I between now and May. And then we have a very optional meet and greet in person. We're going to go to an amazing location. We're probably going to do a hike
Oh,
in
for
there
sure.
because Jenny's involved. Listen, you get to sit in front of a fire with me and talk about money, but Jenny will have us hiking, which I'm excited about, in a beautiful location that's easy to access. So you'll be invited to that if you want to participate in that as a celebration of all the work you will have done. But the
Incredible.
real magic will become that all of these tools will be ingrained in you and built in you so that long after this transformation of the next 6 months happens, you're going to have those tools to build on and build on and build on, like Jenny.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I feel like it is divine alignment that we had the lives we've had and that you and I intersected when we did. And then,
Yeah.
over all this time, we've had these peripheral journeys of immersing in growth, always with service at the heart
Yeah.
of what we've done. And become so clear on how we can support and who we want to support. I mean, it's basically anyone that wants that, but there's a certain energy where it's like, yes, there's just that yes energy. So I think, well, I know what's going to happen is a whole lot of transformation, and
Mhm.
not that there's anything wrong with us the way we are. We don't have to transform. We get to transform for us.
Yeah.
It's so that our level of fulfillment, our level of inspiration, our level of experience and joy in our lives can be expanded, because that's possible. There's been so many times when I've been curled up on the floor in my life thinking, this is hopeless. And it wasn't. It never was. And
Yeah.
don't want anyone else to feel stuck in that story, because it's
Yeah.
not the truth. The truth is, we are capable of anything we set our minds to with the right tools, the right community, the right support, the right focus.
Mhm.
And, being together, I feel like holistically, what you and I have experienced overcoming in our own lives,
Yeah.
and what we have experienced in terms of leadership for others because
Yeah.
of what we've invested in ourselves.
It's even in the results of just the one tapping course we did together, right? A difference of 4,700 to 32. That's not lateral growth. That's exponential
Quantum.
when we work together. And that part has been so cool. And that's what I've noticed about, who you spend time with really does matter. And I'm so grateful that I keep getting, surrounded by incredible people. I don't know what I forget that there's not awesome people everywhere in the world. Like
No.
I was at the grocery store. I just wanted buns for Thanksgiving dinner. Just wanted to Canadian Thanksgiving,
Right.
the butter buns. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And there was this man and woman arguing. I don't know if they were brother and sister or husband and wife, but the way they were speaking to each other, and it took me aback. They were just having this argument out in public, like as if it was completely normal. And I was like, oh, I forget that people sometimes in the world speak this way to each other. And I'm so grateful I'm not surrounded by anybody who speaks that way or talks that way to another human being. What a blessing.
Kidding. What a total blessing. I just think, okay, they are living under a cloud of fear. If
Mhm.
they are in any relationship and they're talking that, there's fear afoot. And I can bet there's a crap ton of procrastination happening too, because procrastination is fear. And I used to be the master of it. So
Yeah.
there will
Yeah.
be a procrastination protocol that you will develop with us. Get over the fear.
Is there anything else you want to add before I know this like went, of course, you and I, of course it was going to go longer. Longest podcast ever, but I'm so grateful. I offer a ton of value anytime you open your mouth. Is there anything I'm forgetting or anything you want to share?
I feel like I think it's just going to be one of those things where the word that I want to say is magic, but what is magic? I just feel like there's going to be miracles that
Mm.
unfold because of that, no matter how scary the yes is to say, because that's how I've achieved breakthroughs in my life, is the scary yeses. I look back and I think, oh, I shudder to think that I almost said no. I can't believe I almost said no to that. Where would I be? It's
Yeah.
terrifying. So
Yeah.
if it's a scary yes, I think that's a good sign.
Yes, I do too. You're right, actually, because everything that I've ever done or invested in has been a little terrifying. And then I said yes, and it more than, I mean, if we're talking about the cost of this program, you know, you're going to make your investment back within a matter of months because you're going to be working real close with me. And you know, there's no way I'm going to let you fail. You're going to know more about, you know, your relationship with money than you've ever even dreamed of. And you know that with Jenny and her magic, magic is such a great word actually, ultimately, because it explains the things that are almost unexplainable. And sometimes you don't, I have to remember sometimes in my own life, like I don't need to know why. I just need to be grateful for what is. Because sometimes I try
Oh,
and think like, why did that happen? Why did that happen? Why did that happen? And
yeah.
ultimately it doesn't matter why it happened, which is amazing. So
And I think I got some of the biggest results in my life, Erin, when I stopped trying to figure out the how.
yeah.
So the how, we've figured that out. But
Yeah.
if you know what you want, you either know you want, you know, millions added to your million, or you want to just increase your net worth, period, or you want to get into a new realm of business, you want to feel different in your body. Maybe you don't have weight to release, but maybe you have energy to increase.
Mhm.
Listen, how you look impacts how you feel impacts how the world receives you, all of that. I mean, you're gorgeous, period. You don't need to ignite your beauty, but honey, it's gonna happen.
Appreciate it. But honestly, this is gonna sound so, I'm not putting myself down at all. I just would never do that. But I joke about it, but I really don't. I'm not somebody who walks around feeling like, you know, what's that song from our childhood? Um, Nobody loves me, everybody hates me. I'm in the
I
garden.
go to the garden to eat worms.
Yeah, that one. That's not how I live my life. But I also have known that like I wasn't born with the greatest genes. Okay. Like I used my student loans to get a nose job because I wanted to get rid of my Arabic roots when I was my Lebanese roots when I was younger, because I just was, which is so stupid now. I look at that now, I'm like, why did I destroy my nose and whatever else? But wasn't I don't come from the best stock. You know what I mean? This is no shame to my family tree. It's just, you know what I mean? This is what we got, right? And yet whether I'm in sweatpants or my roots aren't done or whatever,
Your honey's like, you're my hottie.
it's no, you can show up in a way for people that's still attractive or that's
Oh,
still
yeah.
serving or that's still like, and I know it's true. Like sometimes I've met people who maybe haven't been the best looking, but you instantly love them because of who they are. And that's an inner radiance and an inner beauty and an inner, right? So then, yeah, maybe I could, I'll spruce this up a bit. But ultimately, I think when we're putting too much emphasis on what's on the outside and we're not doing the work that's on the inside, we've all met people who look good on the outside and you meet them and you're like, I don't want to be anywhere around this ugly human being because
100%.
of the darkness
This
that's,
this is why I don't mind. Like, I go out all the time. This is the first time I've put makeup on in I feel like a while. Because I figured we'd talk about my makeup artistry of 30 years and I should look like I know what I'm doing. So I put some on. But I am so fine of going online, going here, going there, and not, being bare naked on the face. It's totally fine.
but you're
And
radiant on the inside. And I think that's the piece that's like that magnetic, that energy, that vitality that you're showing. And that's something that you've trained into your body. That's not
yeah,
that you can change. Like you don't have to go to a plastic surgeon to like Jenny
yeah,
McKinney has not been to a plastic. She's had nothing. You don't put
nothing,
the,
nothing.
don't do
I
this to yours.
I started getting proposals, I don't know when, maybe about 7 years ago, maybe not quite that long, but offers, come in, we'll do this thing, and then you can talk about it. And I made a decision. I feel like my body says no to that. So I don't judge it for my clients or other people. The fact that we have options is a genius. I love that there's options. I
Yeah.
love options. But I
Yes.
made a decision for myself. I think I'm just going to ride it out. I don't think I'm going to do a pile of interventions because I just think my body is saying no. So I'm trusting that. That's
Yeah.
part of this whole, what does the inner voice say? But I
Yeah.
do love, I do love that people can do what they want.
I agree. I agree. And I know that you don't judge anybody, but I just think it's telling that you look the way you do on the outside because of how you show up on the inside, if that makes sense. Like I just think that there's a correlation there. And I
Yeah.
think when people don't take care of what's on the inside, it shows up on the outside. Says the girl who needs to like comb her hair. But I also live a really, really stressful life and it shows up in all these places, right? Which is the thing I'm going to work on transforming in total life transformation this year. So it'll be just so cool to see. And Jenny and I do the work alongside you. I think that
That's
that's
the
really
best
important to
part.
know. It's the
So
best
cool.
part. I was telling her some of my goals just before we got on this call. I'm still developing them and working them because we do the program too. So we don't just tell you what to do. We are embodying the teachings because we want to know, like, does this work? Does this not work? And also what we're doing is drawing on all of the years of experience that we've been working with people and witnessing their transformations. And, people don't do the work that we teach and become independently wealthy or financially free or, end up in the best relationships of their life or, um, I was talking to a dear friend the other day who was telling me her orgasms are back and we celebrated that like nobody's business. I mean, that is like,
Bring
that's
them.
transformational alone.
It is. The end, there's like, that is life force
Juice of
energy.
life. It is life force energy. So there's so much to this that is, um, kind of like a work in progress for you, but the tools that you're going to learn, you're going to be able to access for a lifetime. So when you have those moments of like, oh gosh, I've fallen back into coffee, you're like,
Yes.
okay, what's going on for me? I'm just going to have a season of awareness. I'm going to spend the next couple of weeks figuring that out, be so kind to myself. And if it feels right to change it, I'm going to do it, but not because I'm like, wake up, no coffee, brush teeth, go for a run, like none of these crazy, morning rituals or evening rituals that feel like a drag or feel like a discipline. Everything's just going to feel like you're just living your best life.
It's so true. In recently in the groups that I've been working with, what we're noticing is that when there's the money or the health thing, that disconnect, it's because part of us got fragmented because we experienced something, likely childhood, mostly childhood,
Mhm.
something that we didn't have the tools to process. So
Yes.
it's almost like we have this gift of disassociation because we didn't have the tools to process it. Now there is the disconnect from having to feel it, but the problem is then it generates this disconnect where we get results we don't want. And
Yes.
so in working in our community for this season, we get to call those disconnected parts back to ourselves, get
Mhm.
integrated in that integration, integrity, wholeness. That's where there's limitless power
Yeah.
within ourselves. So it's like a coming home into ourselves, really.
Mhm. Love it. I'm so grateful I get to do this work with you. I feel so honored. I'm so excited for the women who've already said yes and are part of it. Like
Love them so much.
celebrating. We can't wait to get together with everybody. And then if you are joining, we'll put a link in the show notes or we'll put a link wherever this ends up. And if you are joining us, there's, I can't remember what it works out to, but over $10,000 of value in this course that we're definitely not charging $10,000 for.
Yes.
And you can get started right away. So even though we're not going to all meet as a group until December for our first couple of sessions, to prep ourselves for January, you're going to be doing other little activities. You're going to get your swag box. You're going to get your coaching calls. You're going to get all your like little bits so that you really, really feel ready. And also it just kind of gives you enough time to really make sure, like when we get into the work part, that you've got clarity. Because sometimes people are like, gosh, I feel like I need to change something, but I don't know what, and I'm just not happy or whatever. But you'll have that absolute clarity by the time we start. So yeah, yeah. I'm so
What a
excited.
great way to enter 2025. Like, is there a better way?
I can't
No.
wait.
I know. It's gonna be so
I'm gonna
good.
be, oh, I'm excited.
I'm gonna have to start getting my earring game
Yours
on.
is good.
Oh, I love these. These are really great.
They're
Copper
gorgeous.
canoe, I think.
Did you have
Um,
them like a local maker? You usually buy
so
yours from a local maker.
yeah, these ones, no,
Oh,
they're you can get them online, but I'm always inspired by your earrings, so I'm gonna have to.
I have a million. And these ones I've worn 4 times this week because somebody complimented me on them on Monday. And so I've worn them every day. You know what it's like when somebody gives you a compliment? You're like, oh, these are now
Oh,
my
those,
favorite.
yes, they're part of me now. I love the contrast of the black with your fair hair. That looks really nice.
You're so kind. Okay, well, I love you. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes.
Thanks for spending this time with me. It was so fun, and can't wait to hear your thoughts on if you've watched or listened to this. We want to hear your thoughts. Send us your notes, assistant@erinskykelly.com. And we'll probably see you in Total Life Transformation.